After falling into a pit and waking up and finding a strange portal, I jump in and find myself stranded in this dry, dangerous desert. This is Minecraft Secrets of the Sands. It is episode 5 and we just took down our first pyramid, giving us our first artifact, and this sword was very strong. To remind you, this sword does double damage to enemies that are undead when it is fully charged, and it evidently does that. While I was leaving, I almost got snuck up on by one of the poison assassins, but my artifact sword took it down very easily. I found a new oasis, and this one was much bigger than the last one, but I didn't really need anything from here, so I decided to refill my water bucket. That's when I figured out that you actually can't place water anywhere, so I filled it up anyways, just to have it. Unfortunately, it was nighttime and the enemies started coming in at greater numbers. But with my new sword, this wasn't a problem at all. After searching for a bit, I found a fully intact pyramid, and this time it was gonna be easier to take down now that I knew what I was facing. But of course, before I get down to the basement, I had to take out all of these minions. And obviously, there was quite a bit of them. Fortunately, all of them were undead enemies, so they were pretty much a one-shot with my sword. But regardless, facing 20 enemies at once, no matter what they are, is still a difficult task. I went on inside, and I just went and broke the spawners. I made my way down into the basement, and started setting off all of the traps. Now I knew what to do and how to summon the pharaoh. The only question I had now was this gonna be a different pharaoh, or the same one I already fought? I ended up going through all of the other chests fairly quickly, and I found an iron dagger which had a very fast attack speed, but I didn't end up keeping it. So I made my way back to the pharaoh's sarcophagus and I awakened it. And this time, pharaoh number 5 spawned. Before, the pharaoh I fought was number 4, and now this one is number 5. This one had yellow armor and definitely seemed a lot easier. I don't know if it was my new sword or the rhythm I had going with my attacks, but the pharaoh was dead in about 20 seconds. This was a very successful takedown, and hopefully I would get something new in the sarcophagus. But now I wondered how many pharaohs there actually were. When I went back, I opened up the sarcophagus and I got Geb's Grounding, which was a bow that apparently slows enemies. This was my second artifact. So far, I think I like the sword better than the bow. I ended up finding my way back to the half-broken pyramid, and I decided to go and get a camel now that I had a saddle. And I started riding it, and it was very disappointing. Very slow, and it was definitely not worth it. I don't know what happened to this camel. It suddenly disappeared. Maybe let me know in the comments what you think happened to the camel, because I have no clue. After journeying for hundreds of blocks, I finally came upon something very interesting. On the top of a mountain, there was a giant red beacon coming from a structure. So I made my way up, and sure enough, I found some sort of lighthouse structure. I could hear noises coming from the insides, and the building had red windows. I couldn't see any mobs inside, so I decided to find the front entrance. I found the front door, and I decided to go inside. There was nothing on the bottom floor, so I climbed up the ladder to the second floor, and I found a crate. The loot wasn't terrific, it was pretty standard, so I decided to go up to the third floor. And that's when I met some people with red armor and weird looking tools. They didn't seem hostile, so I clicked on them, and it turns out they were called sun speakers. These sun speakers actually accepted gold coins in return for different trades, so these people were pretty friendly. There weren't any trades that I wanted, so I went up to the fourth and final floor, and I found this giant floating ball that was giving off the red beacon. I broke inside, and I accidentally punched it, and it exploded me, but it dropped the Heart of Ra. It turns out I could place this down and explode it at any time, and I could still have it forever. So I decided to keep it because hopefully this could help me out with future pyramids. It was time to test out my theory. After searching for hundreds of blocks, I finally found a fully intact pyramid. That's when I started placing down the Heart of Ra, and it started exploding. The interesting part is that whenever I placed down the block, and you usually can't place blocks inside the pyramid, it would actually duplicate the Heart of Ra. So basically what that meant is that I had infinite exploding Hearts of Ra in my inventory. Now all I needed to do was get down to the pharaoh room and start exploding him, but these phantom things were giving me quite a hard time. I thought I would find nothing special, and that's when I came upon a Power 3 Mending Flame short bow. This is quite possibly one of the best bows I could have found. I did have the artifact bow, so I decided to keep both, and I went on down to the basement. Hopefully, this pharaoh would be a different one than the ones I've already fought. After going around, I ended up finding a Totem of Undying, but I didn't need it because I was one of the best players in the game. That is complete sarcasm, and you will see why later. I disarmed most of the traps, obviously not all of them since I got shot in the back, and I decided to go towards the pharaoh room. I found a room with quite a few crates in it, and point being, I am not the best player because I exploded all of them. So that is karma for me for not taking the Totem of Undying. I cleared out this room and went on to the final room so that there would be no mobs left once I had to take out the pharaoh. It was now time, so I placed down the royal torches and I opened up the sarcophagus. This time, a green looking pharaoh spawned and it was called pharaoh number 10. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the name. But all I knew now was that there must have been at least 10 pharaohs. We had a little struggle at the door, but there was a major sign that this pharaoh was going to be much harder, and that's when I got hit and this pharaoh did poison damage. That meant that one hit from the pharaoh did about 5 hearts of damage. So obviously I got scared and I ran to go grab the Totem of Undying because once again, I'm definitely not the best player in the game, and I was out of food. So, I tested out my theory of using the Heart of Ra to explode the pharaoh. I think it did a good amount of damage, but I wasn't paying attention. I had to circle around and get enough time so that I could grab the rotten flesh from one of the crates. That was my only source of food at the time, so I had to keep running. I barely had time to grab it, so I started eating and healing up very slowly. Since the rotten flesh kept giving me salmonella, it was gonna be really hard to heal up to full health, so I had to work with what I had. I almost exploded myself by trying to explode the pharaoh, and that was a really bad idea. So I decided to play it safe and heal up a bit more. After I took out most of the minions, I decided to take on the pharaoh head on. I didn't realize it at the time, but the pharaoh was constantly healing whenever I didn't hit it. So I was gonna need to take it out fast. The pharaoh must have gotten confused when I closed the door on him because I think he went around the whole other way. So now I was looking back between both doors trying to see which door he would come through, and he came through the other one. It was time to start spamming the bombs. 3 explosions was enough to do it, and I got him down to very low health. I went in with my sword, and I took him down with my final few hits. We had taken down pharaoh number 10. I went back to the sarcophagus and I opened it up, and something immediately caught my attention. It was the feet of Ra. The feet of Ra were boots that apparently could make me walk over lava. This was our 3rd artifact, and I'm fairly confident that there were 7 more pharaohs to be taken down.